Artists, today we are going to be painting or adding color to your stained glass. And we learned all about a tint, which is a color mixed with white. I started painting my stained glass and you can see the difference between the tint, the color mixed with white, and just the plain old color. So what's going to happen is you're going to get your stained glass back. Number 3 is you're going to need to go to the paint table and grab a tray with one of each color. You're going to need to go and get a brushes for your table, and a cup filled with water. And I'll bring to you a tray that has 4 spots of white paint. Each friend at the table gets 1 spot of paint. I'm going to use this spot. Now you get to decide what color goes where, and if you choose to paint it that plain color, or if you choose to mix a tint. I think I'm going to have purple in this polka dot. I'm just going to mix plain old purple. But down here, I'm going to mix a tint. So I'm going to mix that color with white. So I'm going to paint it first, and then I'm going to have to wash out my brush really good. When I mix colors, I want to make sure that my brush is really clean. So I swished it in the bottom of my cup, and if it drips, I wipe it on the lip. And now I can grab a little bit of white. And I can mix right on my paper to make a tint of purple. All right, I'm gonna have that tint over here too. My picture is symmetrical, so I'm gonna try to use what happens on one side with that color goes to the other. Let's see one more time as I paint a shape. My next polka dot, I think, is going to be green. And I think I would like it to be a tint of green. So I'm going to dip the tippy toe of my brush. Notice how no paint is on the no-no zone, just the tippy toe. And I'm going to paint my circle green. What happens on one side happens on the other. And I want this to be a tint, a color with white. So I'm going to wash out my brush really good. If it drips, wipe it on the lip and grab a little bit of white. Notice how I'm not getting white from any of the other spots. Those are for my other classmates. Those artists have their own spots of white. I'm not going to touch them. When I'm painting, I want to paint right to the very edge. So something else that you're going to need at the drying rack or at the drive-through is a messy mat. See how I've kind of moved over that messy mat so that when I'm painting yellow right to the very edge, it's not going on my table. My messy mat is catching any of that paint. So use your messy mat as a tool to help save you a little bit of cleanup time, because we want that paint to go right to the edge of the paper. Now, as I'm painting in the shapes in between, it can be a little bit tricky. So what I need to do is slow down my ballerina brush, have her go straight up and down vertical, and I'm slowly painting in between those black lines. I'm being really careful that my brush doesn't paint over the black lines and wake up the black paint. Then all my colors will start to look a little bit muddy. My stained glass is all painted in. Before I put it in the drying rack, artist, I want to show you a little trick. Because I have to wash my brush in between every color change, that means my brush is going in my cup an awful lot. Sometimes what happens is the brush is too wet, and what I can do is use a little piece of paper towel to help dry it. Now when I dry my brush, what I do is I lay it out on my table, my paper towel, and I just go back and forth, kind of like making little X's with my wet paintbrush. This can help dry it off before I dip to a new color, or double check, is there any paint on there? If I see paint on my paper towel, that means my brush isn't clean. It should go back in the water until I see no paint, just water. This paintbrush is clean. I could dip it in a new color. When your painting is all done, you're going to carry it flat like a lunch tray, thumbs on top, and slide it into the drying rack as low as you can go.